They laughed when she walked in wearing a tracksuit. 14 seconds later, no one was laughing. Nobody looked twice when Monica walked in. To most folks in the room, she looked like someone who took a wrong turn or came to pick up her kid from a karate class. She wore a plain black tracksuit, the kind with no logos or fancy stitching. Just something clean, practical. Underneath it, a simple green t-shirt peeked out. No brand, no slogan. Just green. It was a Tuesday evening at Crosspoint Grappling Academy in Topeka, Kansas. Hot mats, loud fans overhead, the heavy scent of sweat and disinfectant hanging in the air. Around her, pairs of people in GIs wrestled like their rent was due. Slaps on the mat, grunts, quick bursts of laughter. The kind of place where you had to earn your space, and people could sense if you didn't belong. At least, that's what they thought. "Whose mom is that?" someone whispered. Monica caught it, but didn't flinch. She just sat down quietly on the bench by the wall, unzipping her bag like she'd done it 100 times before. The front desk guy, Cam, maybe 24, still had acne scars, walked over and asked her to sign a waiver. He didn't say much. No welcome tour, no handshake. Just slid her a clipboard like she was applying for a temp job. "First time?" he asked without really looking at her. "Not exactly," she said. He didn't ask any follow-up questions. Across the mat, Coach Renner was working through guard retention drills with the blue belts. Stocky dude, bald, had a voice like gravel and a whistle around his neck he never used. He glanced up when Monica walked in but didn't say anything either. He probably figured she wouldn't last more than a week. Monica sat and waited, calm, watching. She didn't look nervous. She didn't fidget. Her fingers rested lightly on her knee, her breath slow and even. Just watching like she was trying to remember the beat of something she used to know. One of the guys, Travis, loud enough so the back half of the room could hear, said, "Hey, green shirt's about to get folded like a lawn chair." Laughter followed. Monica heard it. She just looked down, took off her shoes, and padded barefoot onto the mat. No big introduction, no announcement, just stepped up like it was any other Tuesday and bowed to the space with a quiet grace nobody seemed to catch. A girl named Becca, probably early 20s, leaned over to Travis and whispered, "She looks like she's never even rolled before." Travis smirked. "Yeah, well, let's hope she stretches first so we don't have to call somebody." That got a bigger laugh. Coach didn't say anything. The thing about Monica, though, she wasn't bothered. Not by the jokes, not by the stares, not by the coach who barely acknowledged her. She'd been here before, not in this room maybe, but in rooms like it, where your worth had to be proven over and over just because of how you showed up. As warm-ups started, she moved with quiet efficiency. Not showy, just sharp. Her hip escapes were clean. Her shrimping had rhythm. Her bridges were strong and controlled. A couple of white belts started to notice. One of them, a guy named Rico, whispered, "She's moving better than me, and I've been here 6 months." But Travis wasn't watching that. He was too busy showing off his new knee brace, talking about how he almost got his brown belt stripped off at a tournament for accidentally cranking a heel hook too hard. Monica finished warm-ups, sat in a crouch by the wall, and tied the drawstring on her pants like she'd done it 10,000 times. Then she waited. She wasn't in a hurry. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was just ready. But no one in that room had any clue who they were dealing with yet. 12 years ago, Monica stood barefoot on sun-baked concrete in Fortaleza, Brazil, drenched in sweat, her fingers raw from hours of drilling collar chokes. She was 26, freshly divorced, and carrying the weight of a silence she couldn't yet put into words. Her boys were back home with her aunt in Tulsa. That gym, an open-air academy with cracked walls and a leaky tin roof, was where she went to learn how to breathe again. She hadn't planned on staying more than a few months. But when Mestre Valdo watched her roll on her third day and said, "Você tem o espírito," she stayed. They trained 6 days a week. Mornings started before the sun. No AC, no mercy. She swept through the fundamentals like her body already knew them. But it was the little things that stayed with her, the calloused feet of women who had nothing, the slap of the mat during takedown drills, the way nobody cared where she was from, only how she moved. Back then, Monica wasn't trying to be great. She was trying to survive herself. She didn't post videos, didn't brag. She just kept showing up, day after day, until the bruises stopped hurting and the thoughts stopped chasing her. Her GE was always plain. Her belt, well worn, And when she finally earned her purple, Mestre Valdo didn't even give a speech, just nodded once and said, "Earned." She smiled, but barely. She was learning to carry power without noise. Eventually, life called her back home. Her aunt had a stroke, the boys were older, and real-world stuff like school supplies and electric bills became the new sparring partners. She packed up, folded her belt, and put jiu-jitsu on the shelf. For years, it stayed there, until recently. One night, after a shift at the medical billing office, she caught herself watching an old match from Brazil. It was grainy and half-muted, but there she was, her younger self, chaining passes like a metronome. She watched it twice, then again, and when her son, Jordan, walked in and asked, "That you?" she only nodded. "Dang, you were kind of a beast." She smiled and turned off the TV. I was all right. That night, she couldn't sleep. Something in her chest was awake again. Not loud, not pushy, just a quiet drumbeat. She didn't talk to anyone about signing up for CrossPoint, didn't post about it. She just called the gym, asked about trial classes, and picked the soonest Tuesday. She didn't tell them about Brazil, or Mestre Valdo, or the medals packed away in a shoebox under her bed. She didn't need to, because what they didn't know about her wasn't for them. It was for her. She wasn't coming to be seen. She was coming to remember. So when Travis made his little joke about folding chairs, Monica just breathed. She'd heard worse. But disrespect has a way of waking up the parts of you that never really left. Coach Renner split the group for drills, white belts on one side, colored belts on the other. Monica was sent with the beginners. Travis caught that right away. "Aw," he said, loud enough for the whole side of the room to hear. "They're giving her the kindergarten class. Should have brought crayons." Someone chuckled. Not because it was funny, but because nobody wanted to be the one not laughing. Monica didn't look over. She just paired up with a nervous-looking teenager named Eli, who had tape around every finger and the kind of eyes that asked permission before every move. "You want to lead?" Eli asked, shifting from foot to foot. "You go first," Monica said, calm as still water. They drilled scissor sweeps. Eli was clunky but coachable. He kept apologizing every time he bumped her leg or got off balance. "You're fine," Monica told him, adjusting his posture mid-movement. "You're actually close. Just anchor your elbow tighter and twist your hips more. Like this." She showed him, slow and smooth. Eli blinked. "Wait, you've done this before." "A little," she said. Meanwhile, Travis was rolling with a blue belt named Devin, a short, stocky guy with fast hands and an obvious limp. Travis kept laughing, overdoing the taps and making a scene every time he got a good position. Coach called for partner switches. Monica ended up with a man in his 50s named Calvin, who smelled like peppermint and wore a brand new white belt that still had the crease from the package. "You got any injuries I should know about?" Monica asked politely. "Just my pride, but I think that's already on its last leg." She smiled, a real one. They ran a few more drills. Monica stayed focused, steady. She didn't try to outshine anyone, but it was obvious. Her base was too solid, her movements too clean. After one transition, Coach Renner stopped and raised an eyebrow. "You said you were new to this gym," he said, watching her closely. "I am." "Where'd you train before?" Monica shrugged. "Different places." He looked like he wanted to press, but didn't. Instead, he moved on to check someone's hip placement across the room. Travis, sitting against the wall, drinking from a giant neon water jug, saw the exchange. "She's hiding something," he whispered to Becca. "Bet she used to do cardio kickboxing and thinks she's a killer." Becca didn't respond. She was watching Monica. Her expression was hard to read. By the time sparring was announced, you could feel something shift. Coach let the class pair up freely for open mat. Travis stood up immediately and clapped his hands. "Yo, Monica, right? Want to roll?" All eyes turned. He wore a brown belt that was half faded and fraying at the edges, tied tight like it meant something more than what it did. Monica stood slowly, brushing a wrinkle from her t-shirt. "Sure." She walked over like she had nowhere better to be. Calm, no trash talk, no extra energy, just present. Travis grinned and gave a performative bow, mocking the tradition. "I'll try not to break you," he said, laughing. Monica didn't say a word. She just bowed back and settled into position. The gym fell into a low hush. Even Coach Renner paused mid-sentence, because sometimes people pretend not to care until silence demands they listen. Monica crouched low, knees bent, fingers brushing the mat. Her breathing never changed, No deep inhale, no adrenaline twitch, just a smooth, settled calm like she was about to make tea, not grapple a cocky brown belt in front of a half-mocking crowd. Travis, meanwhile, bounced on the balls of his feet like a kid showing off at recess. He smirked at the group watching. Let's see if yoga helps her here. Someone near the back let out a soft laugh. Becca didn't. Neither did Coach Renner. Eli and Calvin stood by the wall, eyes fixed on Monica like something serious was about to happen, but no one could quite explain why. Ready? Travis called, already reaching out to slap hands and bump fists. Monica nodded. They touched hands. That was it. And then, for a half second, everything froze. Monica moved first. Not rushed, not loud, just clean. She pulled guard, catching Travis off balance mid-step. His smile faltered. She shifted her hips like she was folding a napkin. His base collapsed. His knee slipped. The gym was still talking. A few people chuckled as if it was some beginner fluke. But Coach Renner squinted. He saw it. In that split second, Monica's right leg slid up across Travis's shoulder. The angle was perfect. Her left leg snapped over, locking behind her own ankle. And just like that, she had him. A full triangle choke. Deep, tight, zero daylight. Travis thrashed once, tried to posture up. Too late. Monica adjusted by a hair, just a shift in her hips, and squeezed. He tapped. 14 seconds. Not a wild tap. Not a desperate one. Just a quiet, stunned pat on the mat. 3 times. Monica released immediately. No grin. No flex. She sat back, legs crossed, and nodded once. Not at him, but at the moment. She stood, calm, and walked back to the wall. Her shirt stuck slightly to her back from the heat. She didn't look for applause, didn't scan the room. Just picked up her towel, wiped her face, and sipped water from an old steel bottle. The mat was dead silent. Travis lay there, blinking up at the ceiling like it had betrayed him. Becca stared, jaw halfway open. Even Eli turned and looked at Calvin with wide eyes like, "Did we just see that?" Coach Renner finally said something. It was quiet, but everyone heard it. That wasn't luck. Travis sat up, face red, not from embarrassment, but from how deep the choke had been. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. Monica sat back down, legs stretched out in front of her. She tied her hair into a loose ponytail. No expression, just peace. "Yo," Rico said quietly from the other end of the bench. "That was the cleanest triangle I've ever seen in real life." Calvin chuckled. "Told you, she's something." Nobody laughed this time, but when silence shifts to respect, you know something real just happened. Coach Renner looked across the room, arms folded. His usual bark was gone. He said nothing, just nodded once and signaled the next pair to roll. But you could feel it. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Who the hell is she? Travis was still on the mat, rubbing the side of his neck. He avoided eye contact as he stood and walked toward the far wall. Becca opened her mouth like she was going to say something to him, then didn't. Monica didn't gloat. She didn't even look at him. She had already moved on. "Next round," Coach called. "Keep it moving." Monica stood and stretched her arms, slow and controlled. She didn't volunteer for another match, but she didn't hide either. She just waited, present, open. A few of the more serious students noticed how still she was, not stiff, not nervous, just composed. This time, Rico stepped forward. "You want to go?" he asked, voice low. "Sure," she said. They shook hands, slapped, bumped. This one lasted a little longer. Rico came in sharp, young, fast, athletic. He tried to push the pace early, but Monica slowed him down with calculated grips and calm, technical guard work. No panic, no wasted movement. She swept him once, past his guard, then gave him space to recover. She didn't roll like she had something to prove. She rolled like someone who knew herself. Coach noticed. He wasn't saying much, but his eyes were locked in. So were Becca's. Eli leaned against the wall, arms crossed, whispering to Calvin, "She's on another level." Rico tapped after about 90 seconds, armbar. She helped him up, patted his shoulder, sat again. Then Becca stepped forward. "My turn?" she asked. Monica stood, no hesitation, same rhythm. They rolled. Becca was sharp, tough base, smart angles. She pushed harder, tried to isolate Monica's wrist, went for a quick arm drag. Monica defended, countered with a simple collar grip, slowed the pace, then passed. Controlled the back. Rear naked choke. Tap. It was clean. Just like the others. Becca sat up after and looked Monica in the eyes. You've done this a long time. Monica finally spoke more than a sentence. Yeah, she said quietly. I have. Coach Renner walked over as they finished. His usual stiffness was gone. He stood over her like he wasn't sure what to say. You said you were new to this gym, he said again. Monica nodded. He let a beat pass. Where'd you train? Brazil, she said simply. Fortaleza. The room went still again. Someone at the back muttered, Wait, Brazil? Coach tilted his head. How long were you there? 4 years? Silence stretched. Rico blinked. You a black belt? Monica hesitated, then exhaled. I am. I just don't wear it anymore. Nobody laughed. Nobody spoke. Even Travis, sitting by the wall, stared at her like he was finally seeing her for the first time. Coach just nodded slowly. You should have said something. I didn't come here for that, she said. I just wanted to train. And that was it. No speech, no story, just truth. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is show up without needing to explain a damn thing. Nobody said much after that. The energy in the room had shifted, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in that quiet, careful way people get when they realize they've misread someone. A couple of the regulars offered Monica soft nods as they passed. Not forced, not out of guilt, just respect. The kind that doesn't come with words. Travis still hadn't rolled again. He sat off to the side with his back against the wall, drinking water and avoiding everyone's eyes. His belt looked a little less important now, like it had been yanked off by silence rather than a hand. Coach called time. All right, bring it in. The group gathered near the edge of the mat, sweat dripping, hands on hips, breathing hard. Monica stood slightly apart, towel in hand, not trying to blend in, not trying to stand out. Coach looked around, then back at her. Some of y'all have been here a long time, he said. You know how I feel about rank and about proving yourself through time, not noise. He paused. But tonight, y'all got reminded that skill doesn't always wear a stripe. A few heads turned toward Monica. Coach kept going. Monica's been around longer than most of us in here. That doesn't mean we put her on a pedestal, but it does mean we pay attention when someone like that steps on the mat. Nobody argued. Nobody rolled their eyes. Even Travis looked down. Becca raised a hand. Can she teach a class? The room laughed a little, but it wasn't sarcastic this time. It was hopeful. Coach smiled. We'll talk about that. People started packing up. Eli walked over shyly, rubbing the back of his neck. Sorry for being so stiff earlier. You did fine, Monica said. You've got good instincts. Thanks. You really choked that guy out in 14 seconds? Monica grinned, just a little. I didn't count. He laughed and walked off, shaking his head. Monica grabbed her bag, slid her sandals back on, and stepped off the mat without a word. She passed Travis on the way out. He stood up, awkward and still flushed. Hey, he said, stopping her. She turned. He cleared his throat, rubbed the back of his neck. I was out of line. She didn't make it easy. She didn't let him off with a smile or a joke. She just looked at him for a second, then said, Yeah, you were. Then she opened the door and left. The sun had dropped, but the sky was still blue around the edges. She walked to her car with slow, steady steps. Not tired, just centered. She didn't slam the door or grip the wheel like some movie ending. She sat for a moment, both hands resting quietly, a faint trace of sweat still on her brow. Her phone buzzed once. Jordan texting, You gonna make dinner, or should I start the pasta? She smiled. On my way. The car engine started, no soundtrack, no dramatic monologue, just life, moving forward. Because sometimes the most powerful wins are the ones you take home in silence. Dinner that night was spaghetti with jar sauce and garlic toast from the freezer. Monica didn't cook anything fancy. She didn't say much either, just moved around the kitchen with the same quiet rhythm she carried on the mat. Jordan, her 17-year-old, sat at the table with earbuds dangling around his neck. You good? He asked between bites. She nodded. Yeah. Gym was all right? She paused for a second, then, Yeah, it was. He studied her face. You roll with anybody? She cracked a smile. A few people. He grinned. Bet they didn't see you coming. Monica just shrugged, but the glint in her eye said enough. After dishes, she sat in her room for a while, not doing anything, just letting the noise of the day fade. She thought about Fortaleza, about the mornings before sunrise, about Mestre Valdo, who used to tell her, "You don't need to raise your voice when your presence speaks louder." She thought about Travis, about how some men only learn after they're on their backs, staring at the truth. She thought about Coach Renner, and how he looked at her different now, not in a way that asked for something, but in a way that finally saw her. She thought about Eli and Rico and Becca, and how maybe, just maybe, she could give something back. Not because she needed recognition, but because someone out there, some quiet person just like her, might walk into that gym one day and wonder if they belonged. And maybe if she was there, just stretching in the corner, calm and quiet, that person wouldn't walk out. That mattered more than any belt. She reached under her bed, pulled out an old shoebox, and opened it. Inside, her black belt, faded, frayed, tied 100 times in 100 rooms. She held it in her hands for a minute, ran her thumb across the stitching. Then she closed the box again. She wasn't ready to wear it just yet, but she was ready to stop hiding from it. The next morning, she texted Coach, "Hey, I'd be down to help out on Mondays if you need an extra hand. No pressure." A few minutes later, he replied, "Absolutely. Let's talk tonight." She smiled, stood up, and looked in the mirror. Just Monica, green t-shirt, hair tied back, calm, nothing dramatic, nothing flashy. Just a woman who came back to something she loved and reminded a whole room that strength doesn't always yell. It's not in the shout. It's in the showing up. It's in knowing who you are when nobody else does. It's in staying grounded while everyone else looks for applause. And that's what real presence looks like. So if you're ever doubted, dismissed, or told you don't belong, remember Monica. And remember, you don't need to talk big when your truth is louder than words. If this story made you feel something, share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's always someone out there feeling underestimated. Maybe today's the day they remember who they really are.